Firms like McKinsey, the outside view is very different from the inside view.
What are some of the problems that you see these leaders face today that is not helping them grow or the organization grow to the next stage?
I was once making parathas with a friend and she stopped me because I wasn't making them round enough. That's okay.
What's my favorite paratha?
Ladies and gentlemen, in a world where AI's power is doubling every 3 months, just how do leaders and managers in an organization actually keep themselves relevant and prevent their businesses from being disrupted? Just how? My next guest, Anna Yoka Brahmabharati, tells us how. After having trained over 20,000 leaders and professionals in very fast growing tech companies like Meta, Google, Sephora, and many more, she tells us what actually leaders can do today to become more relevant, to keep up with the pace, and to grow themselves professionally. In this conversation, we discuss her inception story and how influences in her career, such as being an associate partner in McKinsey for 9 years, has influenced the trainings that she creates and offers to this world through Tomorrow College. So if you are a leader who is looking to become the best version of themselves, then this podcast is for you. Also, just a disclaimer, towards the end, we talk a lot about food. We talk about lacha parathas, we talk about chai, and so on and so forth. So if you love food, watch till the very end. Now, on to the show. So, hi Anna.
Hi, Priya.
Welcome to the Out of Office show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. I am super excited, super thrilled because
Good.
this is happening.
Good.
And I think I've told you this before, but I think when I was conceptualizing Out of Office show, I
Yes.
had a list of guests that I
Yes.
definitely wanted to have on the show, and you were one of them.
Good. I better be. No joking. So that's an honor, you
yeah.
know that. Yes.
So, yeah, I'm excited to create this legacy with you now.
Okay. How many people were on that list? 99 or?
No, there
I'm
were
joking.
actually like 10
Oh,
or less than
good.
10. And I'm on
Good.
my 15th episode, so not bad.
Good.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, so today I want to talk to you about a lot of things. I want to talk to you about your journey and about Tomorrow College, your current business, what
Yes.
you're doing, all the knowledge that you've gathered. And the whole goal is to really help our audience
Yes.
understand leadership, tech companies, everything, right?
Good.
So that's
Love
where
it.
we will go. But we'll start with something very simple. How are you feeling today?
How am I feeling today? Good.
Yeah? You had a
Good.
crazy day at work, an easy day?
I slept 3 hours last night and I'm quite surprised how fresh I feel at this time.
Right?
It's not standard to sleep this short, but yeah. And I have only had one coffee and now this delicious chai.
I'm glad.
So I'm quite good. Today was a good day. Yeah.
Great.
How about you, Priya?
I'm excited. I'm always excited to have a conversation with guests, and most importantly, if they are friends who I love. I'm happy.
By the way, I did finish my chai already. So
Do you want some water?
yeah, later. Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Perfect.
Or more chai.
Or more chai. Yes, we can pause.
No.
We can go get the fresh.
And later we make chai together. No.
Okay. Sure. Okay, sure. All right. So, and I was researching about your work, and even though I know you, I still try to see what you've done, look at your online presence, just so that I can formulate certain things, get some things that I've probably never known. And
Yeah.
this episode is
Because
also
how long have we known each other?
probably 4 years now, 3
Yeah.
years, 3 to 4 years now.
Yeah.
21. 4
How do you know it was 21?
Because 21 was when we came out of COVID and I started going to Draper Startup House, where I met all of y'all.
All of my
You, Vikram,
Okay.
and the class of Draper Startup House 2021 at that point in time. Basically, people who would just sit there and work,
right,
figure things out.
right.
So, yeah, 21. That's
21.
when we got introduced. So, yeah, now the curious thing was, when I was scrolling your LinkedIn profile, I saw that instead of putting yourself as the founder of Tomorrow College, you put yourself as a creator of what Tomorrow College and Courageous Teams.
Yes.
So what's the story behind that?
So finally you actually took the effort to read what I write there. which I think most people don't. But it's an interesting question. Okay, maybe an easy answer would be maybe I like the sound of it. Maybe it's my poor understanding of English, which is my third language. But I guess to a bit more of a deeper level, I do feel creator means something different than founder. I think, so my background is in architecture, right? And so I feel I have a little bit of that creation in the early part of my career. But I also feel that founder is a bit more tactical. Like, okay, I just like establish something. Okay. And then you can elaborate more. It's foundation, right? Like foundation of a building. Okay. It's here, stake in the ground, groundbreaking. Oh my God, there's so many synonyms in the building, in building science that have to do with also business. But I feel that creation is, it's like right away, I feel it, you know, we are creating an experience. We're creating a service. We're creating a product. It is more than like, okay, I just like put my bricks down and build something. No, I'm actually envisioning something. And maybe this is my marketing brain talking. So I didn't mean it as marketing, but if you're asking me like why, I do feel creator has a better depth to it and more visionary view.
Absolutely. I mean, this actually takes me, and I'm deeply resonating with this because it takes me back to when I was a kid. And I used to like play with mechanics set, and I know you used to play with Lego.
Yes.
I did my research.
Still do. I still do.
You still play with Lego?
I buy my kids a lot of Lego so that I can build it.
Yeah. So I mean, when I used to do that as a kid, then came a point in time when my father was like, okay, now, you know, create your email because your friends and da 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 da. And then he helped me create it. He's like, what password would you like? And I know this password has come out in way too many data leaks, so I'm okay to say this. But my very first password was creation.
Creation.
And then some numbers after that.
And okay, you didn't use the 8 in there. Creation. Okay.
No, like
back then, we didn't think about it like that. Wait, when was this? What year did you get your first email?
2006.
2006?
Yeah.
And how old were you?
I was 13. So that's when I created them, yeah. And creation was a part of it. So
you know what is funny talking about email is, sorry, I know but you know, my name is Anna, but actually my whole name is Anna Joke, which is a Dutch name, right? But the Joke doesn't translate well in English because it's written as joke.
Yes.
But I think because I came online at the sweet spot of all these services. Like I have had a lot of times that I could get Anna Joke at, like all my emails were always like that.
Simple.
Yeah, I'm just, now that you say first email and I think back, I think my dad had CompuServe. I don't know how we say that. In Dutch, we pronounce all these English words really wrong. But I had annajoke@cs.com. What a fantastic email. I don't have it anymore. But anyways, yeah, it's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So your first email and creation was your password.
Creation was the part of the password.
Yeah, that wouldn't pass the test now to be strong enough.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have to do a lot of other things.
And why did you choose creation?
It was really coming from this whole sense, as you mentioned, that I wanted to be a creator of something.
Yeah.
And I always enjoyed building things and making things. And that's exactly what I'm doing now.
Yes.
And I love it because I just go crazy creating.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think creating, you know, there's something really beautiful about architecture.
Yeah.
That is just, you have created a building.
Yeah.
And, you know, a building could just be bricks. But from then on, that building interacts with humans. And that experience you have created, and it will be there, I mean, forever or as long as the building stands. I think it's very interesting.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Love it. So was that the reason why you went into architecture?
No, not quite.
Okay.
I went into architecture because I got turned down as a pilot. So I had to do something else.
No.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a pilot.
So ever since I was 3 years old, like the oldest stuff, and my mom doesn't keep a lot, but the stuff that she kept from like preschool, kindergarten, and all of my school, every single show and tell, every single assignment, it was always, I'm going to be a pilot. Top Gun was my favorite movie, but it was too much of a chicken to sign up for like, the Air Force. So I was like, I'm going to be a pilot. And even when I was writing in some of these assignments, I said, I'm going to be a pilot with American Airlines because there's more female pilots in the US than in the Netherlands. And then on a rainy day in September in the year 1999, it was my time to go for my test to the KLM Flight Academy, because by then I had changed my mind. I was like, okay, KLM is fine.
Yeah.
And the morning went well and the afternoon went fine, but I messed up one test and I know exactly why. It was just a stupid mistake. And that like ended my whole childhood dream. 14 years of dreaming to be a pilot was done in like a rainy September Tuesday afternoon. And I remember sitting in the bus back to Utrecht, which is a city, and I was staying with my sister's friend who was studying there. And then I would have to go back to my parents. And I just literally thought, oh my God, I don't know what to do with my life, because it was such a natural response that I was always said, I'm going to be a pilot, which also kind of like closed off for me having to reevaluate if that was really what I wanted. And then this was my graduation year from high school. My last year, it just started because it starts in September. And I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. So I'm like, okay, I like to play with Lego. I draw floor plans for fun on Sundays and imaginary homes. Okay, let's just study architecture. I don't want to visit the campus. I don't want to go there because if I don't like it, I don't know what else to do. So let me just go. It was like logic didn't add up. But so I went very much with like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I did. And then I started studying in the year 2000 in September. And it was really rough in the beginning because everybody who was at architecture had dreamt their whole life to become an architect. And I had dreamt my whole life to be a pilot. So then, and then especially in the beginning, people try to like, hey, who's your favorite architect? And they name drop all these and I couldn't name a single architect. I could name only I.M. Pei, who had designed the pyramid in front of the Louvre, because a week before starting, I watched that documentary that happened to be on TV, and I was like, I gotta watch something architecture. I have no idea what I'm getting myself into. But I think, the teacher that I had in my very first term, so you start designing from day one. My very first term, I had a really great teacher and I got like the best scores, and he taught me it's not about knowing the architects, it's about designing. So eventually I graduated with honors for somebody who had never done architecture before. So I think, I haven't done myself justice too much on that degree. Also because have you studied engineering? Yes. So at NTU, right? NUS. Okay, it's a little bit different because so I think my campus is more comparable to NTU. So it's all technology. Delft University of Technology.
Ah, yes.
Yes. Good. No.
I mean, it's pretty awesome.
So the funny thing though is the culture in Delft is known in the Netherlands as being the rudest you think Dutch people are rude, you go to Delft, they're like 10x rude. Okay. But also in Delft, you have people who study quantum physics, like, like technical, like all kinds of like super difficult, real engineering stuff. To them, architecture is literally preschool. So they joke and say, oh, did you make some nice collage? And to your peers that you meet, that you hang out with, architecture is like the easy study. Right. And that you carry around. Like you think like, okay, yeah, sure, I graduated with honors from architecture, but it's still preschool compared to my friends who did quantum science and whatever. And only like a few years ago, I realized that Delft architecture is the top 3 in the world. And then I realized that, whoa, okay, thanks peers for keeping me humble, because I always thought like, oh, I did architecture in Delft, such a failure. No, I'm not joking. That's how they make that. Like, I'm not saying this to, But it's really how down to earth they make you feel. I mean, I had people who studied aerodynamics and like all kinds of like super complicated stuff.
You know, there is a study which actually, and I don't remember from where, but I'll try to find it out. But that says that you know the smartest in a state college, it's a US based study. So the smartest student in the state college is more confident than the average student in a very
In Stanford.
college,
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, so it just you know, because I had the same feeling in NUS.
Yeah.
Here, did well in school and everything, go into NUS and you're like, okay, I'm about to fail.
Yes. Right. Absolutely.
So it makes you feel like, yeah, what did you do in life?
I mean, that is the same with consulting and McKinsey because in McKinsey, everybody feels like they're the hiring error. Everybody's so
Seriously, no,
no, I'm not joking.
It's like
everybody's
like a dream.
so clever, and you think like, oh my god, when did I find out that like I'm not so good? So the first few years, you're really like walking around covering up and thinking, oh my God, somebody's going to find out that I'm the hiring mistake. It's really like that. People.
And everybody feels like this.
Everyone feels like that. It's a type of personality they hire and they call it insecure overachiever. But it is really, and it's not meant to brag or like, you know, secret or like false, humble humility. But it is really deep inside. Like we would talk to each other and say, oh my God, I'm so nervous because, you know, I don't. And then over time, like, I mean, I was there 9 years. So eventually I was like, wow, it seems like maybe everyone has the same issue, right?
Right.
But
so tell me more about this. Tell me more about this journey, because you know you spoke about you.
How does an architect end up at McKinsey?
Architect, not just about how you ended up in McKinsey, but this was interesting. What you just said.
Only this out of everything I've said so far.
Why do they hire insecure overachiever? How does this work for business well? How was your experience in that space doing this, right?
Well, it was funny because today I was talking to a former colleague who I interviewed because she's working with one of my clients. And we were talking about in firms like McKinsey, the outside view is very different from the inside view. And I get it because, you know, like the view of what it must be like to get in is shaped by whatever you hear outside. And now you hear more and more, but it's always been quite secretive. And I think that movies and some examples, like, I mean, it's a partnership, so it is so spread out. It's not, a partnership also means it's very decentralized. And the things that come to the news are parts that you don't necessarily have anything to do with. It's not like there's the CEO who is like top-down guidance on what it is. So I feel that, you know, and at the risk of sounding defensive, but like that image is a mismatch between what is happening inside. And because there is not an urge to change that external view, because the focus is on what impact can we deliver rather than how do we look good in the press. And so I feel that in the hiring process, they really hire, and I've interviewed over 100 people to, you know, to come as consultants, and like, oh my God, so many great people. Like, it's such an honor to have that conversation with them. But you see the rigor that's put behind the interview process is to really make sure that the people who come through are not the ones that Hollywood movies make it look like consultants are like this, at least not with McKinsey. I mean, I see some of them in some exceptional cases, and maybe one region is different than the other, but I have seen Europe and Asia, and I just feel that, you know, when you look for personal achievement, like how do you really push yourself? How do you keep yourself humble? How do you work in teams? How do you, so even like, I guess this idea of growth mindset before we started expressing it was already really ingrained in that. And I think those ingredients just add up to getting that caliber of people that is, you know, that has interesting ideas, but is also not like, look at me being like, you know, the main person. I think a lot of us always have felt like misfits in our lives. Then I remember the first time I was in the office, I really felt like finally a place where I can belong, because we're all like weirdos. Like, you know, people outside may think like we're mean, dickheads, whatever, like cutthroat. Inside, I think we're all just very curious weirdos that are just curious about how things could work. I mean, look, but I guess that's about as much I can say without generalizing across 20, 30,000 people population. But yeah.
Okay. What was like?
And then I was an architect, sorry. Then I was an architect, which was even more weirdo because there were only, when I got hired, there was, I think, one other architect worldwide that was with McKinsey.
But you know, the perception now that is there is that people tend to do their MBAs and then they go into one of these consulting firms,
Yeah.
McKinsey and BCG and stuff. So you would think that you're actually hiring a very homogeneous group of people. But
Right.
it's wrong.
Yeah, I think that's okay. Maybe that also differs because some countries do it different than others. But one-on-one on McKinsey hiring, usually, and now, and then it has diversified a lot, right? But if you look at like, say, 10, 15 years ago, you would see that they would hire typically at two moments. One is as what they call business analyst, which is after a bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
The other one is after a master's degree or after an MBA. Now, the Netherlands was always a little bit different because the bachelor's degree didn't really exist much in the Netherlands. And also our clients were very highly educated. So we had a level that's called fellow. And that's where people after a master's degree would start, but they'd still do an MBA. So that's why many Dutch people have a double master, like an MBA and a master's of science. I would say when I joined, there was, I guess I would say there's probably 30 to 40% had a background in either economics, business, or law. Then another 30 to 40% would have a technical background in physics, science, engineering, any of that. And the remaining group was like, anything. Like I've actually one of my colleagues who was amazing to work with was a former fighter pilot who was in charge of like all the fighter pilots on one of these aircraft carriers. And I was like, why talk about problem solving? Tell me more stories about that.
Pilots and going back to your pilot dreams.
I had a colleague, she's amazing. She was, before joining McKinsey, a labor and delivery nurse who did that for a while in Bali. She's now a partner in healthcare and she's just amazing. There's
domain experts as well.
No, but they don't join as domain experts because we don't work with aircraft carriers that much. But what they're looking for is a curiosity and a way to think that is conceptual, outside thinking.
Right.
And I guess that's also what I had to come to terms with, right? Because there I was, and I worked in the construction industry for 3 years, and suddenly I'm with an insurance company advising them on how to grow their business. And they look at me like, okay, what's Anna, the architect, going to tell us about that? Yeah. So then I was like, yeah, what is Anna, the architect, going to tell me about that? But eventually you're trained to think in a very logical, structured way. And that method it's not rocket science, but it is polished to perfection. And I think that helps. That is where the value lies. The value doesn't lie from the industry expertise. I would always say to my clients, you know your business, and I can only help think structured about that.
So, speaking about thinking in a very structured way.
Yes.
And I've had this conversation with a very old friend who was from McKinsey. One of the things that I
mean, old person or friend for a
long-term friend.
Sorry, but I'm a very visual thinker, so now I'm like, okay, good.
Yeah, so one of the things that I thought McKinsey was really good at doing was putting frameworks, or creating frameworks, and being able to apply that to different contexts, in different industries. And I think that's where a lot of the value comes in, and that's why you also have all these books, that research papers that McKinsey writes as well, to be able to really simplify this in someone's head. And tell me, was that also the way Anna, an architect, advised an insurance company?
Well, I mean, I think back then, that was my first year. It wasn't as obvious to me, but over time I started realizing, so my mom always says, what a shame you're not using your architecture degree at all. Why don't you want to go back? And I kept thinking, funny enough, even though I don't design buildings, there is so much from the thinking skills that I learned in Delft and studying architecture that are massively valuable in how I look at businesses. And it has to do with anything from like structuring and relationships between things, right? Like we need to really, like your toilet needs to be next to needs to be accessible for your guests, needs to be accessible there, not in your kitchen. Like, how everything relates to each other and how the use of of that comes together. Prioritization, like there's a lot of thinking strategies, creativity, like, and I think Delft's architecture specifically is known to be very conceptual. And so there is a lot about metaphors and analogies. And I think, yeah, thinking strategies wise, it's been, with hindsight, fantastic. I could recommend anyone to study that for a while to, you know, I 100% credit it with the way that I think. And also my parents have always encouraged creativity, but I feel that that has helped me look at the business from a different lens and you know, to be able to like zoom out from biases and any like assumptions.
Right. That comes with when you are an industry practitioner, expert.
Yeah.
Have a lot of do's and don'ts, and this is how
Yes.
it works. And
Yes.
and you're able to come out and look at it from a whole different perspective.
You more easily get like tunnel vision,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Beautiful. What was a beautiful moment that you had in McKinsey?
It was a beautiful moment that I had in
Something
McKinsey.
that's really memorable.
A lot was really memorable. It's all confidential.
I love it.
That alone is just really nice to say. I think I have a lot of friends. I would not have been where I am today without the firm, as we call it, endearingly. It's been also intense, but it has really made me who I am. I think what I found interesting was that when I joined McKinsey, in the first 3 weeks were all training. It was all training. I didn't do anything else. And from the start, even when I got onto my first project, it was all about learning on the job, constant, like, of course, constant feedback, but it wasn't about the feedback itself. It was about making sure that in the 3, 4, 5 months that you're on a project, you had actually developed. And that growth curve is in a way addictive. Yeah.
Addictive.
It just makes you crave for growing more and more. And so this was 2009, 2010. Every year, every 2 years, I would go for a whole week of training and like no disruption, anything, just full on focused training.
Yeah.
And after your first year, you can then sign up to become faculty yourself. And it's still quite early, but, and I realized right away, this is what I want to do. So the funny story is a little bit that even though I love my client work also,
Yeah.
the thing that I felt, you know, was really meaningful for me was when those weeks that I could come as a faculty, but also as a participant, but also as a faculty to help colleagues, younger colleagues learn and to guide them through that growth process. I think that focus, that like razor focus on growth and development of real excellent people. So I mean, it isn't really a story except for like if we really go down to the wild stories. But you know, like we had a lot of fun, and it was very safe learning, stories that people told you that you'll never forget. Like for instance, one thing that I say in almost every single training program is, I genuinely believe that nobody wakes up thinking, let me be an awful manager or let me be, you know,
this.
Yeah, I say this. I don't think anybody wakes up and say, oh, let me give Priya a hard time today, you know? So, and when you start with that assumption, you start with curiosity, because if not, then what has happened on my path that I show up and give you a hard time?
Yeah.
This is not to my credit. This is to the credit of, in 2010, so this 15 years ago, March or April, I think, I was at a training program and there was an engagement manager. So I was like, he was like 3-4 years, 2-3 years higher in tenure than me, from South Africa, who was teaching us. And he said this, and I will never forget. And I think that those are, you know, this razor focus on learning has shaped how I look at my professional career. And it has also made that I realized also, I mean, I got in there quite happenstance, right? I was I was an architect who
Yeah.
ended up with McKinsey. And it's, by the way, I didn't know what McKinsey was. My
you
first day, second day, they said, here's your laptop, open it, go to Excel. I'm like, what's Excel? And I'm like, I never used Excel before. I thought,
And now you're like a pro.
I thought it's used for like making like nicely organized, like, trainings and
Right.
workout schedules and
Right.
grocery shopping. I didn't even know it had formulas. 2 years later, I'm in love with Excel. I do it for fun. Like, lock me up in a room, let me make an Excel model. It's crazy. I'm a nerd, But anyway, so I didn't really know what I got myself into.
Yeah.
And so I kind of rolled into it backwards. But then when I was in it, I realized like, wow, I genuinely believe I haven't seen another organization that is so obsessed with learning as the McKinsey as I was in back then. I don't even know if it's still like that because every organization has a challenge. And this is the challenge for anyone today because we all believe we don't have time to learn.
Unfortunately. But I think that is...
Yeah, but it's not unfortunately. It's poor prioritization.
Yeah.
It's poor prioritization. There's like the only real investment you can make in yourself is to educate yourself.
Yeah.
And it can be with formal degrees, but it is with everyday constant learning. And whenever there's an opportunity to do a learning program, I mean, I understand, but I simply don't understand. Why wouldn't you grab that with both hands? It, to me, is feedback that people like me and people in my position have not done a good job by providing good training programs, such that right now training programs have a reputation that it's not worth your time, it's boring, you don't really learn anything. It has to be that, because if learning would be worth your time, it's fascinating and fun, and you learn something, then why wouldn't more people show up?
Right. But are you talking about people showing up on their own accord, or is it
Anywhere.
organizations doing
Anywhere. Even in organizations, the single biggest issue my clients have is
then
that people
wouldn't-
cancel for training
But
programs.
wouldn't you consider, degrees, for example, or certificate programs or boot camps, people showing up on their own accord?
So people are seeing more of a shift from doing training at work to doing training in the weekends. But I still feel that like a lot of the training in the weekends is then online.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen some good stuff. I've seen also a lot of bad stuff.
Yeah.
I also see a lot of people who are obsessed with just sitting through a training so they have the degree or the certificate, but they haven't really learned.
Right.
And that's why I believe in the adult principles of learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I tell this upfront to people, look, adults learn by deliberate difficulty. You're going to sweat. You're going to feel uncomfortable. You're going to think like, I don't know this.
Yeah.
Don't write that in your feedback. That's on purpose. Because, and you have to go through a lot of that struggle to actually really learn.
Yeah.
But to prioritize learning and to make time for learning is the single biggest challenge right now.
I agree. I can see where you're coming from on an individual level, but let's say on a business level, do you think organizations today are actually keeping aside enough budget for training to happen?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
So does that actually impact the leaders or the people who are being trained?
Well, I mean, look, another issue is that, coming back to my earlier point, it's really hard to see what is a quality training program and what are good facilitators and what are not. And I like to think I do a good job, but I also feel like if I look back to some programs, I could have done even better. I should have done things different. I should have made it more practice and less talking or whatever, which I'm trying to do right now. And so I guess maybe, why do I do what I do? Because having seen in McKinsey how privileged it is to have access to this kind of leadership training, and then mixing that with my observations as a mom in this world that I really think the world needs better leaders, and without pointing fingers to who should be a better leader, I think really the world needs better leaders. Like for me, I guess maybe a part that is missing that I need to quickly explain is when I was doing architecture, I was also doing a minor in technology and sustainable development. So this was the year 2000 and we were talking about sustainability. And everybody was telling me, Anna, why do you make your life so difficult? Nobody wants this. Why don't you just make a nice building? Why make it green? Nobody cares. That was before Al Gore made his movie, The Inconvenient Truth.
Yeah.
So I have seen that nobody was interested in sustainability. Then the movie came out. Then suddenly everybody was interested because there was a hype. And then we started saying, same this same lighting tube that I've had for 5 years, now suddenly I say this is green lighting. So I watched the greenwashing from the start, and I was like, I got annoyed. And that also, I let go. I stepped more and more out of the sustainability because I felt it was really shallow.
Yeah.
But I did think like, okay, to really change the world, you have to understand the. So one of the reasons I became a consultant is there's no better way to understand business than to just become a consultant. I mean, there's maybe other ways, but this was a good way to
Fast track.
And I worked with oil companies, energy companies, waste management, like all kinds of massive companies. And I realized after all these years that the issue we're having in this world is not a lack of great ideas. The issue we're having is not a lack of good people with good values who want to do something well and something good for this planet or who know how to execute. The real only issue is that in the moment that matter, we are taking decisions that drive us in a different direction. The decision-making process in the moments that matter, that's what it comes down to. And that's leadership. So instead of investing my time in like finding a solution for global warming or, any of the big challenges that we find, I feel, okay, it's not about finding that one holy grail that fixes everything. It's about making sure that as many people as possible, when they are in the room in a moment that matter, they do the right thing. They do the right thing.
Them for that specific.
To prepare them, which means a number of things. It means that I'm teaching them how to think objectively, awareness of their own triggers, of their own biases, of assumptions, groupthink, all kinds of stuff that may be happening there, independent thinking, echo chamber, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It also means that I'm helping them not to escalate. I'm helping them to communicate their ideas in a clear manner. I'm helping them to recover from setbacks and be resilient and have a growth mindset. I'm helping them to be audacious and strategic in their thinking. I'm helping them to be deliberate and planning their work in a good way. All of that, I think, so for me, the calling became like the world needs better leaders. And many people are out there who could be the good leaders, but they have never had the privilege that I had to be exposed to this elite level of leadership training, which was 9 years of McKinsey plus 1 year at INSEAD, which was also pretty good, plus a mix of a bit of architectural thinking. And that's why I think my creator thing is to create that experience that people can really, really grow, and that becomes that I democratize the access to that kind of training, because if only a subset of the people, and a lot of them are privileged, right? Most people in those organizations comes from a background where their parents already have studied or they have good jobs and all of that, right? Yeah. So my real goal is how can I get more people to see, it's not rocket science how to structure your thoughts. And I'm sorry, I'm probably not doing a good job myself tonight. But if I had to convince, you to invest in something, I would have known exactly how I would structure it to get you there. And that is a trick that I can train. And that is what's behind why I do what I do.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Love your excitement. Beautiful.
No, this is me processing. It's always me processing. No,
So what's your calling, Priya?
We'll get back to that question in a bit. But Mike, I want to double down on certain ideas and thoughts here from whatever you've said so far.
Yes.
One thing that you mentioned was that, of course, the world needs better leaders for them to make the right decisions at the point that matters most, right? Now, in your journey creating Tomorrow College and in this business, what are some of the things that or the problems that you see these leaders face today that is not helping them grow or the organization grow to the next stage? I mean, I'm trying to frame it better, but essentially, very simply, what are the challenges that they're facing? What are they lacking?
I think some topics that a lot of people struggle with now is just leading through uncertainty. If you give an example, right? When ChatGPT launched, and what has it been like? What 22? When did it launch? 2020, November 2022.
3? No, 2.
Yeah. Okay. The jury is telling us. Okay, good. Good. So I think it was the fastest, what's it called, adoption of technology that we have seen. Like, you know, you have all these adoption curves, right? Like radio took like X years to get to 50 million, TV this long, iPad phone. ChatGPT got to that use so fast within like a month. It completely disrupted everything. And what I find interesting is what happened at Google when ChatGPT launched.
What happened?
Because we look at the one who's on stage. ChatGPT is on stage, and look at how fast it goes. But it's interesting to think, oh my God, who was supposed to be on stage? And
Google was supposed to do this faster.
I mean, Google, aren't these Google guys behind LLMs and like the whole thinking behind it?
Yeah.
So there is a lot to say that I think Google in that time, and it was a little bit in the news, like code red, right? And then they started launching things and then they stumbled. And this is interesting because we have as a world sort of been taught to believe that, a leader leads the way, knows the way, shows the way. Like my 4-year-old says, follow me, I'm the leader, right? And here I am as her mom being a leadership expert. I'm telling her, no, a leader can be in the back also. And she goes like, Mom, no.
That's probably
No, the leader is in the front, you know? But the reality is that Hollywood, teachers, politicians, everybody has taught us that a leader knows. A good leader knows and cannot change their mind. Yeah. And so even if we're already talking about, hey, how did Google act when OpenAI launched ChatGPT? We're sort of like laughing. I'm even, see, now is my own awareness. I'm laughing because like, oh my God, Google got like surprised and they should have been there. And then they stumbled. How could they have stumbled? In tomorrow's world, leaders don't know anymore. You impossibly can know. If you can see ChatGPT disrupted in a month. And then after that, they launched other versions. And it was again, within no time, suddenly, you know, when they started launching imagery or copywriting stuff, and copywriters still saying, no, I'm not going to go out of business. I'm a good copywriter, you know, and you think like it's disrupting so fast. People are still like need time to catch up. So in tomorrow's world, in today's world, no single leader knows what's going to happen. It's the simple reality. And so what we need to let go of is this idea that I need to work towards knowing everything. Wow. It's very tiring for the people around you if you as a leader, because you're starting to, I always say you're starting to squeeze the yogurt.
Yeah.
You got to hold it like this. Like if you squeeze it, it goes all the way. Yeah. So they're so like clinging on to this and it's just making them go the other way. It's getting them into problems. The more you squeeze into, I need to know, I need to find this out, I need to go deeper into the details. No. As a leader, your role has changed from I need to know to I'm facilitating the knowing. I am orchestrating the knowing, which now means this is why people say people skills are so important. But facilitating and orchestrating the knowing means, okay, we have a situation. I'm going to get everybody to give me the data and I'm going to make a decision. Versus now we have a situation. We need all the brilliant minds and the Gen AIs all together working to think about what is the right thing to do here. And then that is, I am facilitating the process of getting to the knowing. And that is a constant process. It is not that we know now because we know now, but like yesterday was yesterday. Like if you see how many new innovations are launched every week, you got to constantly be there.
And this thing about facilitating,
yes,
it's not a very natural thing that comes to a leader who, let's say, is, I mean, I feel like majority of the leaders are going back to that initial characteristic trait that you mentioned for me, right? Are insecure overachievers.
Yes.
And for an insecure overachiever, this is difficult.
Yes, this is difficult. And Adam Grant wrote a whole book about it, but let me share about it so I look smart. So this is the idea of overconfidence versus rethinking. And overconfidence is caused by pride. And pride makes us, you know, when our ego is at stake, then we start to get some sort of conviction. Oh no, but it's really true what I'm saying. I really believe in myself, right? Also because the world doesn't allow us to rethink our own thinking. Google made a mistake. Look at the loser. How can we? No. So the world doesn't allow us to make mistakes, which means that we still feel, oh, I gotta have conviction. Then when I have conviction, what do? I'm going to search for confirmation of that conviction. Okay, I am now going, I'm good at this. Hey, Google, do you think I'm good at this? Yeah, of course. If you Google it like that, you always get a confirmation answer, right? We are selective in the information we find. We are looking for the answers that are supporting our belief that we're doing the right thing. That's validation. That validation only leads to more overconfidence. So we are stuck at what this Dunning-Kruger effect called Mount Stupid. The only way to get at that high confidence, low knowing, to get off of there is more knowledge. And the thing with knowledge is we need to start rethinking.
The more you know, the less you know.
Yes, it's exactly that. The more you know what you don't know. And so when we get to rethinking, I always say that, and so Adam Grant has this rethinking cycle, and I think there is a dirty word in there. And the dirty word is doubt. So rethinking means that I go to doubt. And doubt, we say, oh, but you can't have doubt as a leader, right?
But it's one of the very core human traits.
Yeah, but isn't it like if you say like, oh, Priya, I know this really good leader has a lot of doubt. She has a lot of doubt. You go like, how can that be a good leader?
Right.
Because we don't allow doubt. Even in school, we go like, I'm thinking about the answer. Why are you thinking? You should know, you should know, you should know. It's all about knowing, knowing, knowing. It's never about the curious part. So I always tell my participants, doubt is not a dirty word, but there's an asterisk. Doubt, if doubt makes you go to your bedroom, hide under your blanket, say, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I'm going to stay here forever. That's a dirty word. Don't do that. But doubt, if it's actionable doubt, if it moves you to action, if it starts changing you, now that leads to something beautiful, which is curiosity. And when we have curiosity, we discover. And when we discover, so Adam Grant calls this confident humility. And confident humility is, when you talk about confidence, there's two types. Confidence about what I'm doing right now is the right thing, and confident to like, eventually we'll pull this off.
Right.
So your podcast, okay, eventually you're going to get a successful podcast.
Yeah.
Whether the long-term thing is recording it in this beautiful setup studio with green chairs and, stuff, that is what you want to be humble about. Because if you can be humble about your approach and confident that you can make it to the end, and you have confident humility, that allows you to go through that discovery cycle. And as leaders, this is what we need to instill more in the people we work with. Because so we do the first part really well. We challenge everything people do. Are you sure? Are you sure this is the right way to do it? Are you sure? But we don't give them the confidence that we know they will pull it off eventually.
Absolutely. Because we keep telling them about, throwing doubts. But very interesting. So this confidence, humility.
Confidence, humility.
Right. It's a little bit like, I'm just taking some words from spirituality here.
Oh, yes.
My favorite topic,
right,
apart from coding, is this. So you see, Neville Goddard, one of, very spiritual guy who wrote a lot of different books, but he spoke about whatever is happening now is your 3D or your three-dimensional space. And that's okay. You be humble about it. You accept it, whatever it is. It could be that you're in the worst situation possible, or you could be in the best situation. It doesn't matter. But whatever you desire, right, that the end goal, be confident about it, know it, have it, believe it, that it's there. And this is basically the two things that you just spoke about.
Yeah.
And this is what our leaders need today.
And you can imagine without the confidence part, you get very insecure.
Correct.
And when you get insecure, you get back on that, protection, because you can't discover. It's not safe. Your brain isn't feeling safe. And when our brain isn't feeling safe, it can't learn under uncertainty.
Correct.
And,
correct. Wow. Okay. So this is
wow,
actually,
I know. And it's all for free because I'm democratizing access to this.
Beautiful.
So far,
yeah.
Anybody who wants to do something, show up at any opportunity to learn. Because in the end, nobody remembers the deadlines. But what if even 1 in 3 training programs helps you get better? You will get better. And I'm going to tell you, because nobody else shows up, you will get a lot faster than the rest. Number two, confident humility in yourself. Tell yourself, I will see through this, and tell others, I know you have it in you to figure this out.
So this is what the leaders of today need, or the leaders of tomorrow need.
Start today is fine. Yeah. Don't have to wait till tomorrow.
Do not have to wait
Keep
till
going.
tomorrow.
Go. Be ahead of everyone else. This is what good leaders do, I think.
Okay.
There's
Beautiful.
probably more, but yeah.
Okay, so tell me more about, your journey building Tomorrow College, a little bit more. I'll ask you a specific question.
What do you want to know?
There is so much that you've learned and put together in your training
Yes.
programs and courses. And
Yes.
tell me for a moment when you were probably executing these courses somewhere, right?
Yes.
That you felt like it was totally worth, doing this, building this, learning this, going through these experiences and putting it together for the leaders. Was there anything like that in the first place?
Never. No, yeah. I mean, look, it's a bit like, it's a bit of a cliche, but yeah, I genuinely feel that every time there is people who show up to learn, and I see that they pick up something, it's worth it. I guess maybe why it resonates with me also is because, and I didn't say this as much, but I wasn't a particularly good manager. I still have, I'm preaching here about leadership, and I have a lot of challenges for myself in like the people that I work with, and that people who are close to me, including yourself, have also seen the parts of me where I definitely have room to grow. But I think because I come from a position of, I'm not your perfect man, but I can I can share more how I have figured things out and how I got to my aha moments, and then help you get to similar ones. Yeah, I think that's also a little bit behind Tomorrow College, because I just feel that back then I was struggling. And sometimes I'm still struggling. And I just think that a lot of people show up with the best intent in the morning, and they struggle because they've never been told how to do this. They've never been held by the hand. There's never somebody who's come to them and say, I know that you can eventually do this, and it's okay. Like, you're trying your best. Give yourself a break. Like, we're all like, we've become really like professional at work, and I just think like we gotta put in that human aspect a little bit more. People are just trying their best, and trying to figure things out. And that has been behind starting Tomorrow College as really a place that I believe, I hope professionals can learn what they need to learn to be ready to lead for the future. Now, how I am building that business, it's a struggle for myself, because I have 3 kids. I have a husband who's an entrepreneur. I don't have any reserves or rich parents that I live off. So first and foremost, my business needs to make money so that I can pay the rent, I can pay the schools, I can do whatever my kids want to do, what I want to do. I guess one of the things when I came from my McKinsey career, and when I left, I was a junior partner, or associate partner as it's called, associate partner, senior expert. I had a pretty solid income. And of course, it gives this belief that, wow, I'm stable, even though in any employment you could be let go the next month and you have nothing and you don't have the resilience to find. I always say it's easier to find a new client than to find a new job. So on the long run, entrepreneurship is more resilient. But that first moment when I went from like good salary that seemed to be stable to like, if I don't make any money, I don't eat any, I can't pay the rent. And my savings went down. I think that was anxiety, and I had to reset. And I took a big cut in my spending and really limited I had anxiety also in the beginning. I was like very like, oh, I don't want to spend this, don't want to spend that. Didn't buy anything for myself for a long time. Now I am getting a little bit easier, but it has also brought my spending to a healthier level, that now with my business, it doesn't put as much strain on my business and as much pressure on the creativity behind my business. But the reality is still very much that revenue generation comes ahead of business growth. For the longest time, I was thinking I was building one business, but now I'm realizing it's actually 2 separate things. This is running a business, and it means making proposals, client preparation calls. Like, yes, last night I worked until 3 a.m. to prepare for a workshop. Tonight we had a call. Today we had a call. I'll be updating the slides. It's probably going to be another 3 a.m. day. But I have to deliver because tomorrow I have a workshop. Friday I have a workshop. that income is important. I haven't sent my newsletter for the past month and a half. That is building my business. I haven't recorded any training programs or made any progress on the bigger things that I'm building. And it's frustrating because that's my vision.
Yeah.
And then I could say, should I be raising money? Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. But it's that if you ask me about like, how's it going building Tomorrow College? That's how it's going. Every time I have to make these trade-offs and think, okay, I really want this, but this is essential and I need this too. And it's not that I dislike this. It's just more that like sometimes you feel you're not getting any closer to do anything here. And then you got to reevaluate, think about, okay, should I be doing things different? So I'm constantly in this awareness, observation mode to think about, okay, so.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think this is something that I also deeply resonate with. It was like this with Innovative.
Yeah.
Very much. It was always deciding between shall we take the, work on the next customer, the next client, shall we ramp up our business development efforts there?
Yeah.
But the heart was always towards, creating products and creating impact and less of
exactly
revenue and sales. So I think I get this.
But wait, but revenue and sales should come from creating impact.
Correct. What I mean is less of chasing revenue and sales.
Yes.
That's the feeling I'm going for. Yeah. And which I've learned, of course, a lot now that, just revenue and sales are things that you do not chase. You never chase. They come to you. They only come to you. And they come to you as a result of creating value or impact.
Yes.
Things like that.
That they do. But also
so that simplified things for me in my head.
Yes and no, because to be honest, like even though every year my business has grown, last year was not an easy year. Last year I had 4 months of zero income. And then this whole idea of like never chase revenue and sales doesn't, like for me, I realized I should be chasing revenue and sales. I should be meeting new people. So it did break through some of this like, oh, I've been so lucky. People know how to find me, to like, oh my God, where is everybody? And I got to reinvent myself. I came up with Gen AI and leadership, which I think has been really good. So also I learn a lot from it. But in the end, I'm also not a charity, right? And absolutely. I'm building a business. But I guess what I am coming to terms with more is around the pacing of things, especially because I have a young family and because I can't sleep on the couch of a friend or anything to build this faster. And that means that the timing of everything will be different. But I do have a very clear view on where I want to bring this. And I guess now I find myself a little bit at the cusp. So it's my third language, so I don't know if I use all the words correctly, but at this tipping point, at this moment where it would be better to hire 1 or 2 people, not just anyone, but good people. But that's a big risk.
It is a big risk.
And in my business, it's not like I have thousands of customers that each pay a few dollars. No, I have a handful of customers that pay thousands of dollars. But if one of them falls off, my pipeline is like, and so this moment of when is the risk, mitigated enough, or when do you take that risk? So this is going to be a decision that likely I'm only going to make towards the end of the year, but it's a long time coming.
Yeah. No, I just had a realization while you were talking about the chasing of revenue and the chasing of sales. What is important to know is that the feeling of chase versus the doing of what you need to do. And as a result, things happen. So for example, like doing what you need to do is, as you said, going and meeting people, right? Understanding how you can help them. That is a part of doing what you need to do in order to get all the actions that you can actually do.
Yeah.
Right? The results, whether, they want to work with you,
you can
give you. So what happens when you chase is that the feeling comes where you are forcing them to work with you.
Yeah.
Or you are becoming desperate that,
Yeah.
Let's work.
But I agree. You can't you can't make that decision on their behalf, right?
Correct.
And there is a fine balance between proactively helping people work through what might be their needs versus being pushy.
Correct.
But I do feel also that sometimes popular influencers online also make it sound like, well, if I just sit in my bed and I meditate and I manifest that Microsoft is going to call me to do a big leadership program. I also don't think that works like that, right? So you got to focus on the effort.
Yes.
Because, and this comes down to what's in your control and what's in your influence and what's in your, concern, but you can't do anything about it. Like, I can't make my clients decide anything, but I can influence them with my behavior, and my existing clients can influence them, and I can try my best, and I can, so there are things that I can control and influence, and there are things that I can't.
Correct.
And you want to focus on what you can.
Yeah. No, I think that's beautifully put. And put.
It's also not mine. I mean, I love to say that it is Stephen Covey. Yes.
Right. I remember 7 Habits of Most
Yes.
Effective People. Fantastic. So all this experience that you've had meeting and building Tomorrow College,
Yes.
has sort of culminated into what I understand and see as Oracle 360.
Yeah.
Tell us more about this. What is Oracle? Break it down for us, and
Yes.
how it can help leaders
Yes.
become better leaders.
Yeah, let's do, let me promote this a little bit. And this is also interesting because as a creator, sometimes I feel I need to be a little bit more business, but I felt this Oracle 360 is something I created. And that also shows the passion that has gone into it, but it also with that shows a little bit of what's lacking is that I'm almost a bit hesitant sometimes to really push it out in the world, even though every time I go through it, I'm thinking, oh, it's actually really good.
And I have seen this, so I just want to say this on behalf of Anna, because I've been in these experiments that Anna's had with real clients.
Yes.
Not experiments, but yeah. And I have seen the impact this assessment has created in people.
Yeah.
Even though it has been very third-party way of seeing, but the fact that people are chasing you for reports, it's such a big indicator that they are, that the report is actually helping them get somewhere, understand themselves better to get somewhere.
Yes. Maybe
with that context.
Thank you. So Oracle 360, what is it? What is it not? How did it come about? What's my idea with it? So Oracle 360 is a leadership assessment. It is not a personality assessment. So you have things like DISC, MBTI. I love it, but there also, you got to read Adam Grant's love letter about MBTI is really good context. I guess psychologists would say the big 5, right? The big 5. And then there's a lot of derivatives from that. DISC, and you have StrengthsFinder and a lot of these, which is really, and Hogan. So a lot of well-researched organizational psychology PhDs have researched all of this, like you are type this, you are type that, you're blue, you're like whatever, right? And
there are dating apps now that are following.
I bet there is. Yeah.
MBTI filters.
Yes. This whole story. Okay, let's not go there. Never mind. But so I guess maybe to start with, it is not a behavior assessment. Oracle 360 is not a behavioral assessment because there's enough.
Yeah.
What I felt was missing is if you look at the world full of disruption and change, what do leaders need to do?
Yeah.
What do leaders need to deliver? It's not about what kind of type you are. Are you conscientious, narcissistic, introvert, extrovert? It doesn't really matter. We all can survive in this world. But if you really think about what does it take to lead well, to lead, and I call it to lead next, right? What does it take to lead in this world? So then I started to do, and this has been really a labor of love for 2 to 3 years, where I just went through all the existing research, everything people were shouting, like psychological safety, growth mindset, strategic thinking, creativity, everything. And I think, I'm not sure, but I think I captured a lot of it. And I came to think, when you look at what leaders really need in this world that we live in, to lead well, it's 6 things. They can be in any order, but because it's an acronym, Oracle, I will start with the O. So the O stands for originality. Originality means that in a world where AI can come up with so many ideas, where it can create, where we're also facing global competition, how do you stay original? How do you bring original solutions, idea, and all of that? So that has to do with creativity, but it also has to do with rethinking that we were just saying, rethinking, nimble, agile, and it has to do with critical, independent thinking. Instead of, going with what everybody else says, do you dare to say what's unpopular?
Yeah.
Do you dare to say what's not being said? So the number one first thing, originality.
Right.
The second one is rigor. Rigor has to do with we're flooded by data. We're flooded by, all kinds of information. How do you stand as a lighthouse with structure into that? Which means you're analytical, you can work with the data, you can problem solve well, you are systematic in how you approach things. So that's very much the McKinsey problem solving. I'm like this, I'm structured, I'm all of that. And I am deliberate. I know what I'm doing. I have a plan. I prioritize. I'm thoughtful in how I approach this, in the decisions I make, etc. All of rigor. A is for audacity. I am not just visionary. Visions can be crushed like this by ChatGPT or any new solutions. Audacity means I have really bold ideas and I dare to take a risk. And it's strategic, visionary, and entrepreneurial. If I can't go right, I'm going to go left. C is for coalition. And coalition is this idea that in the past we would ask, is your leader a good teamwork? Now I think we talk ecosystems. It's not about the team anymore. It's not about the organization. It's about beyond. If you look at big players like, say, Lazada, Grab, any of these companies, they work with ecosystems. It goes far beyond the borders of their organization. And how do you influence when you don't have a hierarchical say, when you can't say, do this or I fire you? How do you do it then? How do you create synergies and value? Then latitude, the L, is more about the one-on-one. How can I show up as a leader to give you the latitude to bring your very best self? Which of course has to do with, am I fair and just? Am I empowering you and giving you what you exactly need? And am I nurturing? Do I create trust, psychological safety? And then the E is for evolution. Do I continuously evolve as a leader? Do I have a growth mindset? Do I advance? Am I driven? Am I conscious, driven by my values? And am I resilient? So that is what I think are the 6 main aspects that leaders need to thrive in this world of tomorrow. And you can take the test. It's a 360 and that's important. So you can compare your own, how you look at things with the view of other people.
Yeah. So this is one thing that I wanted to ask you. So is there an ideal oracle, an ideal oracle benchmark for a specific kind of a leader? An aspirational score.
Yes.
Maybe.
And this is why I need all of you to take the test. We are still in the validation process. Even though these dimensions are based on a lot of meta research, now is the time for the next year or two to get enough respondents to actually validate. And I have a hypothesis. And my hypothesis is that there are going to be several DNAs of what could work.
Yeah. Several combinations of
Several combinations.
Okay.
And that's beautiful because you can't be good at all of it.
Yeah.
And then we can start to see, okay, once we have those patterns, those DNAs, we can start to say, Priya, you fit very much in this archetype. You fit very much in this archetype. And then we can also start to see in your organization, do you have a good enough blend? And now we are also converting Oracle 360 into a culture assessment. If your organization is ready to lead, to thrive in this world. So instead of saying this leader is like delivering original solutions, we'll look at colleagues around me. And then that's going to be interesting for business leaders to assess their organization and say, okay,
Yeah, because I was just thinking that one step would be like, now that we understand what is the ideal oracle or what is the combination of oracle that works best. We should be able to also create a direct line to the to either a top line or bottom line, or it could also be like that role or department specific KPIs.
Yes.
And have this relationship between Oracle and the influence these characteristics have on these KPIs.
Yeah, and that's when I get excited about data, because the more data you have, the better you can start measuring that. And that's why, we are building now a very robust, scalable model to do this at scale. Because when we have it at scale, then we can really bring on not just hundreds, but ideally thousands of people from across organizations. And then with the right data science, you can actually start validating the model. And then we have to have confident humility that there's going to be things that need to be reshaped. And I think that's also what I'm trying to think now. If I were to translate this to an organizational level, am I missing anything? Is there anything in Oracle 360 that is not covered? Which always gives me like, I wish it was this in there. How am I going to fit it in? It's puzzle, but it's important work to do, right?
Yeah.
Because you can only steer on things that you can measure, that you are measuring. If you're not measuring the weather, you can never say that the weather had an impact on how many ice creams we sold.
Correct. Yeah, it's very important to get clear on your levers. So how do people get access to this?
You tell me. I think
College.
we will add a link somewhere.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, true startup style. This is in full development. Like we have a base system, which I think has done a good job, but also we take feedback. I realize the report may need to be simplified. We're building a custom GPT to help you read out your results. There's a lot of ideas we have to further expand on this. And this is also like why I'd love to have somebody on board who can fully push this through.
Absolutely.
This is, but I'm very excited about this opportunity that we can now measure how ready you and your organization are to lead in this world of disruption.
Amazing. And if organizations want to use this for their employees,
yes,
they just reach out to you.
Come to us, because as we are in the validation phase, for now it is for free. Eventually we will charge, but because we are still validating, we'd love to partner, and we can do all kinds of things around it. Yes.
Amazing.
Nice.
Fantastic. Last question, Anna. So do you believe that energies and thoughts create your reality?
Do I believe that? Say again, what?
That energies and thoughts create your reality.
Sure.
That was the best answer any guest has given me. Love it. That came with so much, yeah, right.
I would be open to it.
Okay.
I do believe there is a lot we don't understand about this world.
Yeah.
That our current view on our current knowledge isn't able to explain. And I think even if you speak with quantum physicists and all mathematicians, there's a lot of people who would agree. And I think it's beautiful to think like that, because it also gives hope. I also believe that we're probably all connected and all one energy source. I always find it fascinating if you really think about molecular levels, that there is so little mass and so much, so much space in each of these molecules that you would actually think, like, how come I can't go through this hand?
And all it's doing is just vibrating at a certain frequency to create that.
Exactly. So, I believe there's a lot to that.
It's beautiful, because just the last episode, my guest who was sitting right here said exactly this.
Really?
Spoke about molecular emptiness.
Yeah, molecular
basically
emptiness.
99.999 or whatever percentage is just energy.
It's just So your question, say it one more time. Do you believe that
energies and thoughts create the matter worlds that we see today?
Okay, thoughts, I think from a neuroscience point of view, thoughts are a tool.
Yes.
Your brain already knows. Okay, so this I found fascinating. And I had to rethink this, and I've only started rethinking this in the past 12 months, because I was educated to think we have a reptile brain. I get triggered. This is just how I react. I always get in a fight mode. And it's a very passive view. And then I heard about Professor Lisa Feldman Barrett. What a genius.
Lisa Feldman Barrett.
And she studies emotions and all of this. And she speaks very clearly that the brain's single goal is survival. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But what it does to survive is to manage our body energy and to predict what's going to happen next.
Based on patterns.
So that I can survive now and in the longer term future.
Yeah.
And the way it predicts is just based on its information that it has.
Yeah.
It's like how we train AI, right? And if I have always seen important say, adults around me respond to a situation in a certain way, my brain will think that it's the most appropriate way to respond to that situation is that. As it does that, then what it does is it creates emotions and feelings and thoughts to get me to action. So when you talk about like thoughts as energy, actually thoughts are a vehicle of our brain to get me to action.
Yeah.
It's nothing more than that.
That's it.
And we think that it starts with a thought, but the thought is after the brain has done its assessment. The brain knows, oh, if I now make her think that, oh, this is good to eat, then at least I will get the food that I need. So the brain, and that's interesting, it means that the work of the brain is done before the thinking happens. Super fascinating. Also, what's interesting is studies of emotions usually study one emotion. And then they will go, oh, we study sadness. Hey, we found the position in your body where sadness feels. And then there's a team that studies happiness and says, we found the position in your body where we find happiness. But these two teams don't talk with each other. And they put the bodies next to each other and say, oh, no, that's the spot for sadness. No, that's also the spot for happiness. And when you feel all these studies of all these emotions, you see that a lot of emotions are felt in similar places. There is no blueprint for emotions. Emotions are constructs of our brain to help move our body to action so that it can get us to safety. And the good truth about that is it means you can change. And this is the hard truth. There is no reptile brain that is doing everything and we can't control it. We can control, we can change. It's the hard truth. So yes, thoughts, less so. Then
Energy.
Back to your original question. What was it? One more time.
Energies and thoughts create reality.
Energy creates reality. I mean, reality, what is reality? Matter.
Basically the physical.
I mean, in the end, reality is only in our heads.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that. Yeah.
Because even when I touch, it is a response of my nerves in my hand. And it's a response of the light touching my eye that I create this reality.
Correct.
But the interesting thing that I wondered about when I was 5 years old was like, maybe what looks green like this looks very different in your
Or
eyes.
somebody else. Yeah. It's just that we have been told that that's green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, energy creates, I mean, reality is in our heads and we never really have the proof of that.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
This was, thank you. This was a very intense, fun, insightful conversation. Yes. All right. So as we come to the close of this wonderful evening,
Yes.
what is your one advice for people or students or mid-careers to move into consultancy or start a startup? So what is that one advice? You could have, advices for each, but yeah, up to you.
Show up for the learning program. Investing in your learning is investing in your freedom. You never regret learning. You never regret having learned something.
Yes. Yes.
And everything else is made up priorities. But 10 years down the line, you don't remember what you really were working so hard for.
Yeah.
So same, if you want to become a consultant, I think it's fantastic. It's a fantastic skill set. You can learn a lot, but do it for the right reasons because you want to learn and not because when I'm a consultant, people will look at me in a different way. No, just because you're curious. So I guess curiosity is important.
So keep that curiosity.
Keep that curiosity, experiment.
Sign up for learning courses, do your Oracle 360 assessment.
Do your Oracle 360 assessment. Yeah, but really learn, and every day think, what have I learned today? What have I figured out? Today I learned about, styling, how colors work. It's also cool, this continuous curiosity every day. What am I learning?
And that is why we have the Out of Office show, actually.
There you go.
From people like you.
Oh, learn and make a podcast about what you're learning.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
For joining me on the show.
Yeah, fantastic. Great that you're doing this. And thanks for having me. I hope it was helpful.
I'm sure. And I'm sure all of you have enjoyed the show today. Keep watching the Out of Office show.
Keep watching.
That was the very first time I ended it like this.
I was with a friend and she stopped me because I wasn't making them round enough.
That's okay.
There are ways now.
By the way,
nowadays.
I've started the recording, but...
I know, but can't we talk about chai and paratha?
Yes,
Absolutely love it.
Actually, yeah.
She stopped you.
Yeah, in making parathas, they weren't round enough. You know who you are.
Do you
I'm going to send you this video.
Do you-
I still remember. What's your favorite paratha?
What's my favorite paratha? I think lacha was good because it's basically you take the dough and then you roll it first. It's the thin rolls, and then you roll it again back, and then after that you spread it into a big circle. So as a result, what happens is that you've got concentric circles in the dough, and that is why it's called lacha. And then the ghee and everything is inside, so it tastes very.
Actually, in Indian cuisine, you have a lot of ways to create structure to the dish.
Yeah.
Where the ingredients are just the same, but
Yeah.
the people are raving about how different it tastes just because it has a different structure.
Yes.
I have noticed that. Okay, so it's still plain. There's no filling.
Right. What?
Your favorite paratha has no filling. It's just rolled and
It's just
structured in a
structured, yes. Just
concentric
same-
way.
And then you can have that with, what is the best thing that you can have?
Achar.
Achar with, I think, keema.
Yeah. Minced
What's
meat.
keema?
Minced meat.
Minced
Minced
meat.
chicken. Oh,
Minced
that
chicken
is.
or minced mutton.
This is
Fake Indian are you?
this is Lucknowi food, right? And kebabs. Kebabs.
Oh, okay.
Very good.
Yeah.
Wait, because you are from,
So
which area are you from?
so the parathas that are made in our house are more like triangular in
Yeah,
shape,
in our-
right?
But where in India are you?
Calcutta.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Food. By the end, by the end of the podcast, you're sitting here. I'm not a big fan of legumes in general.
Right.
Unless you
Best
make
way for-
hummus.
That's what.
Unless you make hummus. I'm also not a big fan of dal. I'm more of I like all the curries, the chutneys,
Yeah.
and the bread.
You need to have my biryani. I don't think it's really good. And it's very healthy. And
Is
you
it
will not
veg?
even feel, no, please.
I like veg.
Veg biryani?
I don't like to
Are
eat
you
a
a
lot of meat.
vegetarian?
Totally.
Fully?
I'm not fully. I like a burger now and then, but actually I prefer also Impossible burgers. I do eat a bit more chicken nowadays and some fish,
Yeah. So I just
just
think,
for my own. Like I sense sometimes my body needs it,
Yeah.
but
Not
not every
otherwise,
day.
right?
Maybe once a week. I think we don't need as much meat as we need. It's not good for the world. Also,
yeah. Oh, there is impossible meat.
there's Impossible meat. Actually, I think Impossible is quite good.
It's quite good. And I am quite impressed by all the cell-based food that's coming out.
But what?
Cell-based.
Yes,
So that can actually solve
yes.
all these meat lover problems.
And I also think that the issue isn't to have vegetarians eat all these products.
Yeah.
The issue is to make people who eat meat eat
Yeah.
more of these products. So that if everybody would just eat a little bit less meat, like 2-3 days a week less,
Yeah.
I think we'd solve a lot of problems.
See, which is why I would like to rather switch into kidney beans or what was that? The
Chickpea.
chickpeas and stuff for protein. Because the only reason why I eat
Yeah.
meat is to have my protein in it.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
hate fish.
Which is also why, like, for vegetarians, you don't need anything that looks like meat because they don't like to eat meat.
Yeah.
So they don't need it to look like meat. You
Yeah.
could get so many other things.
Correct.
Yeah. Agree. Also, I do wonder sometimes because in the beginning, I don't know if it's still the case, but Impossible was not allowed in Europe. It didn't meet the EU food
Food
standards.
standard.
So I still wonder what kind of stuff is inside. I don't know if that's still the case though.
Right.
Beyond Meat was allowed. Yeah.
I think it might have been some band of ingredients that was
Yeah.
not falling within the required.
Former colleague of mine, he does also one of these startups. And I think he worked with the Singapore government, but now, of course, I forgot the company name. But there's a lot of interesting developments.
Yes. I mean, very recently I was talking to one guy who doing business development for a food processing company in Singapore,
Yeah.
manufacturer, and they are selling this to different brands. So it is fake meat. So it's something like Impossible, but
What is it
they're
called?
producing it. I do not know. He didn't reveal that because I was interviewing him.
It's really interesting because I think in Asia, what's really interesting, I mean, maybe you have this in other parts of the world, but what so far I feel we see coming from other parts of the world are all these replacements for beef or but in Asia, you see really creative,
Yeah.
like, I think I was at the zoo the other day and they have a lot of plant-based stuff. Like there's a lot of mock-up that you barely can see the difference with real, like fish, chicken, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
When I was pregnant, then you can't eat sushi, although everyone in Japan still eats raw fish when they're pregnant. But outside of Japan, they don't advise. Then there is this restaurant, Herbivore, and they have fake sushi. Like it's sushi, but it's like insane because it looks and tastes like tuna, and it's not. You should order. It's really good. It's really good.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So wonderful conversations about food. Anna.
We can talk about food all night.
I know. I mean, I love sushi, so I was gonna go in a whole different.
You should really try. You should really try that place. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll do that.
We can go together.
Okay.
I think they still exist. I hope they're still here, still around. I don't know.
Singapore, right?
Yes, in Singapore.
All right.
All right.
Cool.